Ever since Darwin, we've had this neat linear story of human evolution. You know the one? Ape-like ancestors in Africa, gradually standing upright, brains getting bigger, spreading out to conquer the world. It's a simple, compelling narrative. But what if a major character in this story has been completely misunderstood? What if Peking Man wasn't just another rung on the ladder, but a revolutionary chapter that forces us to rethink everything we thought we knew about our own origins? Let's journey back in time. Not just a few thousand years, but nearly 700,000. We're not in the lush savannas of Africa, the supposed cradle of humanity. Instead, we're in the harsh, unforgiving landscape of northern China, near modern-day Beijing. The climate here is brutal. Winters are long and intensely cold, a stark contrast to the tropical environments we usually associate with early humans. And it's here, against all odds, that we find one of the most significant and mysterious figures in our family tree, Homo erectus, better known as Peking Man. The discovery itself was a bombshell. In the 1920s, paleontologists digging in the limestone caves of Zhoukoudian unearthed a collection of ancient hominin fossils. These weren't just a few scattered fragments. They found remains from over 40 individuals, men, women, and children. This was a community, a snapshot of life from an unimaginably distant past. The discovery sent shockwaves through the scientific world. Here was an ancient human ancestor, far from Africa, thriving in a place no one expected. It was the first major challenge to the straightforward, out-of-Africa story. Could human evolution be more complex, more widespread, and far more experimental than we ever imagined? The real story, the one that upends our traditional views, isn't just that they were there. It's what they were doing. Deep within the Zhoukoudian caves, alongside the fossils, scientists found something transformative. Thick layers of ash. This wasn't the residue of a random wildfire. This was evidence of the controlled, sustained use of fire. Think about that for a second. 700,000 years ago, in a land of bitter cold, a group of early humans had mastered one of nature's most powerful forces. Fire wasn't just a tool for warmth. It was a revolution. It was light in the darkness, a way to ward off terrifying predators that roamed the night. It was a kitchen, allowing them to cook meat, which not only made it safer to eat, but also unlocked vital nutrients, supercharging their brain development. The hearth became the center of their social world, a place to gather, share food, and communicate. This wasn't just a physical survival tool. It was a profound psychological and cultural leap. It represents the birth of the home, the very concept of a safe, communal space. Mastering fire shows a level of foresight and control that we often reserve for much later, more advanced human species. But the evidence for their advanced cognition doesn't stop with fire. Let's talk about their tools. Scattered throughout the caves were thousands of stone implements. Now, these weren't just randomly bashed rocks. They were carefully crafted choppers, scrapers, and points, what archaeologists call the Oldowan and Acheulean traditions. Making a tool like this requires a multi-step process. First, you have to find the right kind of rock, one that will fracture predictably. Then, you need a plan. You have to visualize the finished tool within the raw stone. Finally, you need the skill and precision to strike it in just the right way, with just the right amount of force to flake off pieces and shape the core into a useful implement. This is not simple instinct. This is abstract thought. It's planning, problem-solving, and passing down knowledge from one generation to the next. Each stone tool is a fossilized idea, a testament to the mind that made it. They weren't just reacting to their environment. They were actively shaping it to meet their needs. They were engineers, innovators, thinkers. This level of cognitive ability, this early in such a challenging environment, was a direct contradiction to the idea of Homo erectus as a brutish, primitive intermediary. And they weren't doing it alone. The sheer number of individuals found at Zhoukoudian points to something radical for its time, a cooperative, social existence. Surviving the harsh northern winters would have been nearly impossible for a lone individual. It required a group effort. Hunting large animals, gathering enough resources, tending a fire, and protecting children from predators, these are all jobs for a team. Peking Man wasn't a solitary wanderer. He was part of a clan, a tribe. This social structure implies communication, shared rules, and a sense of collective identity. They were likely caring for the sick and the elderly, because every member of the group was valuable. This level of cooperation is a hallmark of human society. It's the secret to our success as a species. And here we see it in its early powerful form, almost 750,000 years ago. Peking Man teaches us that we have been social creatures from the very beginning. Our ability to connect and work together is as fundamental to our evolution as walking on two legs. Now, the story of Peking Man takes a dramatic and tragic turn, adding a layer of mystery that still haunts us today. By the late 1930s, the political climate in China was becoming dangerously unstable as the Second Sino-Japanese War escalated, merging into World War II. Fearing for the safety of these priceless fossils, the scientists packed the entire collection, all the skulls, teeth, and bones, into 2 large crates. The plan was to ship them to the United States for safekeeping until the war was over. In December 1941, the crates were handed over to a group of U.S. Marines, destined for a ship that would never sail. In the chaos following the attack on Pearl Harbor, the crates and the Marines guarding them vanished. They were never seen again. To this day, the original Peking Man fossils are lost. All we have left are the detailed casts, notes, and photographs taken by the original researchers. The disappearance is one of the greatest unsolved mysteries in the history of science. Were the fossils destroyed in the fighting? Were they hidden away and forgotten? Or are they still out there somewhere, locked in a vault, waiting to be rediscovered? This historical drama adds a poignant sense of loss to the story, reminding us that our connection to the past is incredibly fragile. So what does all this mean for the grand narrative of human evolution? It means the story is not a straight line. It's more like a sprawling, branching bush, with different groups of early humans experimenting with different ways of life all over the globe. Peking Man proves that advanced behaviors like fire control, complex tool-making, and cooperative social structures weren't exclusive to one lineage in Africa. They were popping up independently, in different places, at different times. Peking Man wasn't a failure, an evolutionary dead end. He was a pioneer, a testament to the incredible adaptability and ingenuity of our ancient relatives. He shows us that the journey to becoming human was a series of bold experiments, of trials and errors taking place on a global stage. The story of our origins is richer, more complex, and far more interesting than we ever thought. Peking Man wasn't just a step on the ladder. He was building a whole new staircase in a completely different part of the house. And that realization changes everything. Imagine a world hundreds of thousands of years ago, a place so harsh it's hard to even picture. This wasn't just a backdrop for our ancient relatives. It was a daily battle for survival. Today, we're traveling back in time to Zhoukoudian, near modern-day Beijing, to uncover the story of Peking Man or Homo erectus. Forget the old image of a lone caveman. We're going to explore a community clinging to life on the very edge of existence. For a long time, scientists thought places like the Zhoukoudian cave were just temporary pit stops, a place to crash for a night or two before moving on. But the evidence tells a much deeper story. Layer upon layer of ash tools and animal bones reveal that this cave was a home, a long-term base camp occupied for thousands of years. It wasn't just a shelter, it was a sanctuary. In a world full of dangers, this cave was the heart of a community, a place where generations were born, lived, and died. It was the only constant in a world defined by brutal change. What was this world like? Imagine a climate on a roller coaster. We complain about a hot summer or a cold winter, but for the people of Zhoukoudian, the changes were extreme. Long, bitter glacial periods would lock the land in ice, followed by warmer, wetter interglacial periods. This instability was the ultimate evolutionary pressure cooker. It forced them to be adaptable, resourceful, and incredibly resilient. They couldn't rely on the same plants or animals being available year after year. Every day was a new puzzle, and solving it meant the difference between life and death. This constant environmental stress didn't just shape their bodies. It shaped their minds and, most importantly, their society. So how did they survive? They were master foragers and hunters, but not in the way we often picture. Life was a mix of hunting, scavenging, and gathering. They would bring down deer, horses, and other large animals, a monumental task that required teamwork and communication. But they were also opportunists. If a saber-toothed cat made a kill, they'd wait for the right moment to move in and scavenge the leftovers. Nothing went to waste. Every calorie was precious. The most fascinating part is what happened after the food was secured. Evidence suggests they didn't just eat what they found on the spot. They brought it back to the cave. This implies a shared economy. The hunters didn't just feed themselves. They fed the entire group. The young, the old, the sick, or those who stayed behind to tend the fire and watch the children. Everyone got a share. This food sharing was the glue that held their society together. It was a revolutionary concept, a safety net woven from mutual trust and dependence. It was the birth of a social contract, ensuring that the group's survival was more important than any single individual's. Of course, they weren't the only ones looking for a meal. The world outside the cave was filled with terrifying apex predators. We're talking about giant hyenas, massive creatures capable of crushing bone with a single bite. There were saber-toothed cats, the ultimate ambush predators, and packs of wolves that roamed the frozen plains. These animals weren't just competition. They were an ever-present existential threat. Every trip out of the cave for water, food, or firewood was a gamble. You could be a hunter one moment and the hunted the next. This constant danger reinforced the need for community. Strength in numbers wasn't just a saying. It was the only way to stay alive. Inside the relative safety of the cave, a new kind of behavior was emerging, what we might call proto-social life. Taking care of children in this environment would have been impossible for a single parent. With predators lurking and the constant need to find food, it's almost certain that they practiced some form of shared childcare. Imagine older siblings, aunts, uncles, or other members of the group watching over the little ones while their parents were away. This wasn't just babysitting. It was a critical investment in the future of the clan. It allowed more adults to contribute to the group's survival, knowing their children were safe back in the cave. This cooperative spirit was the foundation of their community. As dusk fell and the terrifying sounds of the prehistoric night began, the community would draw together around the fire. The fire was everything. It was warmth against the biting cold. It was a weapon that kept the giant hyenas and saber-toothed cats at bay. It was a kitchen for cooking meat, making it easier to digest and unlocking crucial nutrients. And it was light, a beacon of safety in a world of darkness. Gathering around that fire, sharing stories through gestures and simple sounds, was a deeply communal act. It was where they found security, where they reinforced their bonds, and where they could finally rest. Sleep itself was a collective act, with individuals taking turns to keep the fire going and watch for danger. What's truly remarkable is what held this community together. Today, our identities are often shaped by nationality, religion, or complex ideologies. For the people of Zhaokudian, their identity was forged by something far more fundamental: their shared environment. Their world was the cave, the nearby river, the surrounding hills, and the animals they hunted. They were a people defined by the challenges they faced together. Their us was defined by them of the harsh climate and the predators that stalked the land. Their entire social structure, their food sharing, their childcare, it all grew organically from the simple, desperate need to survive another day, together. They were not just a collection of individuals. They were a single, living organism, adapting and fighting to keep its small flame of life burning in a vast and unforgiving world. The legacy of Zhaokudian isn't just in the fossils and stone tools. It's in the blueprint for cooperation that allowed our ancestors to endure, and eventually to thrive. Imagine a world without fire. No warm meals, no cozy evenings, just cold, raw food and long, dark nights. This was the reality for our early ancestors until a pivotal moment in human history, one that would forever change our destiny. Today, we're journeying back nearly 770,000 years to the Zhaokudian caves near Beijing, home to one of our most famous relatives, Peking Man or Homo erectus pekinensis. The discovery of Peking Man wasn't just about finding old bones. It was about uncovering the very origins of what makes us human. And at the heart of their story is one revolutionary technology, the controlled use of fire. This wasn't just a flicker in the dark. It was the engine that powered our evolution. Before fire, our ancestors spent a huge portion of their day just chewing. Raw meat is tough, and raw plants are fibrous and hard to digest. Our guts had to work overtime to extract the necessary calories. But when Peking Man learned to control fire, everything changed. Cooking food is like pre-digesting it. The heat breaks down tough fibers and complex proteins, making nutrients far more accessible to our bodies. Suddenly, a wealth of calories was unlocked. This surplus of energy didn't just make us stronger. It went straight to our heads, literally. Scientists believe this new, high-energy diet fueled a massive expansion of the human brain. Our brains are incredibly energy-hungry organs, consuming about 20% of our daily calories. Without the cooked, calorie-dense food made possible by fire, it's unlikely our brains would have grown to the size they are today. We traded a large gut for a large brain, and that trade-off was one of the best deals humanity ever made. But the benefits of fire went far beyond nutrition. Think about your daily routine. How much time do you spend eating? For us, it's a relatively small part of the day. For our pre-fire ancestors, chewing could take up hours. Fire gave Peking Man the gift of time. With less time spent on chewing and digestion, they had more hours in the day for other activities that would lay the groundwork for culture, society, and further innovation. And what did they do with this newfound time? They invented, they created, they taught. At the Zhoukoudian site, archaeologists have unearthed thousands of stone tools. These aren't just sharp rocks. They are carefully crafted implements, shaped with skill and intention. We see choppers, scrapers, and points, each designed for a specific task, from butchering animals to working with wood and hides. What's truly fascinating is the consistency of these tools over thousands of years. This suggests that the skills to make them weren't just stumbled upon by each individual. They were taught. An experienced toolmaker would have shown a younger member of the group how to select the right stone, how to strike it at the perfect angle to get a sharp edge. This is evidence of knowledge transfer, of education. It's the beginning of cultural inheritance, where skills are passed down not through genes, but through teaching and learning. Technology wasn't just a tool for survival. It was becoming a part of their shared identity. But fire's most profound impact might have been on our social lives. For the first time, the night was no longer a time of absolute darkness and danger. The campfire created a circle of light and warmth, a safe haven from predators and the cold. It became a natural gathering place. Imagine the scene. After a long day of hunting and gathering, the group would come together around the crackling flames. This is where society was forged. The campfire was the first living room, the first town square. Here, in the flickering light, they shared food. They shared stories, perhaps through gestures and early forms of language. The social bonds that are so crucial to human survival were strengthened around the fire. It provided a space for communication to develop, for plans to be made for the next day's hunt, for relationships to deepen. The fire also likely sparked the first glimmers of spirituality and ritual. Fire is a powerful, mysterious force. It gives warmth and light, but it can also destroy. It keeps predators at bay, but it can be dangerous if uncontrolled. It is easy to imagine our ancestors looking into the dancing flames with a sense of awe and reverence. Perhaps the first rituals were born here, acts to honor or appease the spirit of the flame. The hearth became a sacred center for the family and the group, a symbol of life, safety, and community. So when we look at Peking Man, we're not just seeing a primitive cave dweller. We're seeing a pioneer. They weren't just surviving. They were innovating. They harnessed the power of fire to transform their food, their bodies, and their minds. They developed technology, and crucially, a way to pass that knowledge on, creating one of the first forms of culture. They used the warmth of the fire to build the first communities, laying the social foundation upon which all future human societies would be built. The story of Peking Man is our story. It's a reminder that from the very beginning, humans have been tool users, teachers, and social creatures. The simple act of cooking a meal over a fire set us on a trajectory that led to cities, to science, to art, and to the complex world we live in today. It all started here, in a cave near Beijing, with a spark that ignited the human journey. From the simple stone chopper to the smartphone in your pocket, technology has always been more than just a tool. It's a reflection of our culture, a catalyst for our evolution, and a bridge connecting generations across hundreds of thousands of years. The legacy of Peking Man isn't just in their fossils. It's in every meal we cook, every story we tell, and every skill we pass on to the next generation, where we dive deep into the biggest mysteries of human history. Today we're tackling a story that's part detective novel, part anthropological puzzle, the perplexing disappearance of Peking Man. For hundreds of thousands of years, these early humans thrived, leaving behind a rich collection of fossils that told us so much about our own origins. And then, poof, they vanished from the fossil record. What happened? Let's investigate. First, let's set the scene. Peking Man, or Homo erectus pekinensis, lived in the Zhoukoudian caves near modern day Beijing from about 770,000 to 230,000 years ago. They were remarkable toolmakers, they controlled fire, and they were incredibly resilient. The evidence they left behind painted a picture of a successful, long-lasting population. But as we move forward in time, the fossil record becomes patchy, then silent. It's like reading a book where the last few chapters have been ripped out. This sudden halt in evidence is the first clue in our mystery. Where did they go? One of the leading theories is competition. The world back then was a tough neighborhood. Peking Man wasn't alone. They shared their environment with other powerful hominin groups and a host of formidable predators like giant hyenas and saber-toothed cats. As resources became scarce or territories overlapped, conflicts would have been inevitable. Could it be that a new, more advanced hominin species arrived on the scene? Perhaps early Homo sapiens, with their more sophisticated tools and social structures, simply outcompeted Peking Man for food, water, and shelter. This idea is known as the replacement theory. In this scenario, Peking Man was gradually pushed to the brink, unable to compete, and eventually died out. It's a classic story of survival of the fittest, played out over thousands of years. But we can't ignore the biggest player of all, Mother Nature. The Pleistocene epoch, when Peking Man lived, was an era of dramatic climate change. We're talking about massive ice ages followed by warmer interglacial periods. These shifts would have completely transformed the landscape. Forests might have turned into grasslands, and rivers could have dried up or changed course. For a species adapted to a specific environment, such rapid changes could be catastrophic. The animals they hunted might have migrated or disappeared, and the plants they gathered could have vanished. While Peking Man was adaptable, they survived for 500,000 years. After all, perhaps the climate shifts became too extreme, too fast. They might have reached a tipping point where their ability to adapt was simply overwhelmed, leading to a slow decline into extinction. Think of it as a slow-motion disaster where their world literally changed from under their feet. Then there's the assimilation theory, which offers a slightly less grim possibility. Instead of being wiped out, what if Peking Man's lineage didn't end, but was instead absorbed? This idea suggests that as other hominin groups like Denisovans or even early Homo sapiens moved into the region, they didn't just compete, they interbred. We have genetic evidence that different hominin species did mix. So it's possible that the unique traits of Peking Man didn't disappear entirely, but were instead blended into the gene pool of a new emerging population. In this version of the story, they don't vanish. They become part of a larger human story, their DNA carried forward in successor populations. Their distinct identity as a separate group faded, but their legacy continued, hidden within our own complex genetic code. These theories, extinction through competition, climate change, or assimilation, all try to explain the biological disappearance of Peking Man. But there's another, more modern mystery that adds a tragic twist to this entire saga. I'm talking about the physical disappearance of the fossils themselves. The original collection of Peking Man fossils, including the iconic skullcaps, were unearthed in the 1920s and 30s. They were a priceless treasure of science. But in 1941, with the outbreak of World War II in the Pacific, a decision was made to ship the fossils to the United States for safekeeping. They were packed into crates, handed over to the U.S. Marines, and that was the last time anyone ever saw them. The crates vanished en route. Did they sink on a ship? Were they captured and hidden? Were they destroyed in the chaos of war? To this day, nobody knows. Decades of searching have turned up nothing. It's one of the greatest unsolved mysteries in the history of science. All we have left are the incredibly detailed casts, notes, and drawings made by the original researchers. We lost the original evidence, the very bones that could have provided more answers through modern analytical techniques we couldn't have even dreamed of back then. This loss has made solving the mystery of their biological disappearance even harder. It's a scientific tragedy layered on top of an ancient enigma, so where does that leave us? We have a hominin species that thrived for an immense period of time, then vanished from the fossil record. We have compelling theories ranging from violent replacement to peaceful assimilation and environmental collapse. And to top it all off, the most important evidence we had was lost in the fog of war. This absence of closure is precisely what makes the story of Peking Man so fascinating. They aren't just a footnote in a textbook. They are a profound question mark in our family tree. Their story reminds us that extinction is a real and constant force in evolution, and that survival is never guaranteed. The mystery of Peking Man is more than just an old, cold case. It challenges us to think about our own place in the world, the fragility of existence, and the long, winding path of human evolution. What do you think happened? Was it competition, climate, or did they simply merge with other groups? And will we ever find those lost fossils? Let me know your theories down in the comments below. The search for answers continues, and perhaps one day, a new discovery will finally shed light on what really happened to our ancient relatives. Ever wondered what a 700,000-year-old skull has to do with your life today? It sounds like a strange question, but the story of Peking Man, one of our earliest ancestors, is more relevant than you might think. It's a story about resilience, innovation, and what it truly means to be human. So let's travel back in time and uncover the lessons hidden within these ancient bones. Peking Man belongs to a species called Homo erectus, which means upright man. And let me tell you, they were survivors. For over 1.5 million years, Homo erectus roamed the earth, adapting to everything from scorching African savannas to the icy landscapes of Ice Age Asia. Think about that for a second. Our own species, Homo sapiens, has only been around for about 300,000 years. These early humans weren't just surviving. They were thriving in a world filled with giant hyenas, saber-toothed cats, and massive environmental shifts. They are the ultimate symbol of resilience, a testament to the sheer tenacity of the human spirit. When we face our own modern challenges, whether it's a personal struggle or a global crisis, we can look back at Peking Man and remember that adaptability is baked into our DNA. We come from a long line of survivors who refuse to give up. Now, let's talk about the family tree. Many of us grew up seeing that classic image of evolution, a monkey slowly standing up and turning into a modern human. It's a neat, straight line. But the discovery of Peking Man and other hominins has completely shattered that simple picture. Human evolution isn't a single, linear march of progress. It's more like a dense, branching bush with many different stems. For hundreds of thousands of years, multiple human-like species, including Homo erectus, Neanderthals, Denisovans, and early Homo sapiens, all walked the earth at the same time. It was a world of diverse human experiments with different groups adapting in unique ways. Some of these branches, like Peking Man's, eventually withered and died out. Others, like ours, continued to grow. This messy, branching reality is so much more fascinating than a straight line. It tells us there wasn't one right way to be human. Our existence today is the result of a complex interplay of chance, adaptation, and interaction between these different groups. So what made Peking Man so successful for so long? Innovation. At the Zhaokudian caves near Beijing, where their fossils were found, archaeologists discovered something groundbreaking: evidence of controlled fire. Imagine what a game-changer that was. Fire provided warmth in a cold climate, protection from predators at night, a way to cook food, and a central hub for social life. Cooking made food easier to digest and unlocked more nutrients, which likely played a huge role in the development of our large, energy-hungry brains. For the first time, our ancestors could gather around a hearth, sharing stories and strengthening social bonds under the flickering light. This wasn't just a technological leap. It was a social revolution. Alongside fire, they were master toolmakers. They crafted simple but effective stone tools, choppers, and scrapers that they used for everything from butchering animals to processing plants. This technology, passed down through generations, allowed them to exploit their environment more effectively. And to hunt large animals or defend against predators, they had to work together. This is where the foundation of human cooperation was laid. Teamwork, communication, and sharing resources were no longer optional. They were essential for survival. These three pillars, fire, tools, and cooperation, are not just ancient history. They are the very cornerstones upon which all subsequent human civilizations have been built. Every skyscraper, every smartphone, every work of art can trace its conceptual ancestry back to these fundamental innovations pioneered by early humans like Peking Man. This brings up a fascinating question. Did Peking Man leave any direct legacy in modern humans? For a long time, scientists believed that Homo erectus in Asia was a dead end, completely replaced by Homo sapiens migrating out of Africa. But recent genetic discoveries have complicated this picture. We now know that modern humans of non-African descent carry a small percentage of Neanderthal DNA, and some populations in Asia and Oceania have DNA from another mysterious group, the Denisovans, who were themselves related to Neanderthals. So, what about Homo erectus? Could they also have interbred with later human arrivals? It's a tantalizing possibility. Some physical traits found in modern East Asian populations, like a specific shovel shape of the incisor teeth, have been pointed to as possible evidence of a regional link stretching back to Homo erectus. This is a highly debated topic, and the evidence is far from conclusive. But it opens up the mind-blowing idea that echoes of these ancient people might not just be in our culture, but in our very genes. Perhaps the story wasn't one of complete replacement, but of a complex mixing and merging of different human lines. The story of our origins is still being written, with each new fossil and genetic study adding another surprising chapter. Reflecting on all this, one of the biggest takeaways from Peking Man is a lesson in humility. Our existence wasn't inevitable. We Homo sapiens are just one outcome of countless evolutionary experiments, both failed and successful. For every species on our family tree that made it, many others disappeared. We are the inheritors of a legacy built on trial and error. The world of Peking Man reminds us that there were other ways of being human, other paths that could have been taken. Our species' dominance on this planet is a very recent and contingent phenomenon. It wasn't guaranteed. This perspective is powerful. It challenges any notion of human superiority and reminds us that we are part of a much larger, more complex natural history. We are not the pinnacle of a predetermined ladder, but one lucky branch on a vast, sprawling tree of life. So the next time you flick on a light, cook a meal, or collaborate with a friend, take a moment to think about your distant ancestors huddled around a fire in a cave near Beijing. Peking Man isn't just a dusty fossil in a museum. It's a mirror reflecting our own deepest origins. It's a reminder of where we came from, of the incredible journey of adaptation and innovation that led to us. It teaches us that resilience is in our blood, that cooperation is our superpower, and that our place in the universe is both incredibly special and profoundly contingent. We are the children of survivors, thinkers and innovators who stared into the darkness and decided to make a fire. And that's a legacy worth remembering. Thank you for joining me on this journey back in time. If you found this story as fascinating as I do, please hit that like button and subscribe for more explorations into our incredible human story. See you next time.